So I've got the Blues gear on again today. It's 2 days in a row. This time I'm going to be talking a little bit about Eden Park. It's kind of been a story which has been brewing for a while. There's been sporadic reports about it, but there's one out from a few news sources in New Zealand, but I'll link the one that I've mostly focused on in the description about Eden Park pretty much not having any money and being in debt, and the future of the stadium still kind of under question. So the article I read mostly talks about the fact that the Auckland's council, who's loaned the stadium a lot of money, asked for a report, an independent report about the viability of the stadium, and they've basically said over the next 10 years the stadium's probably going to lose around 80 million New Zealand dollars. And it also doesn't have money to pay for $62 million of needed maintenance on things like the turf, the lights, and various other things. They said that the turf's 15 years old and you're supposed to replace it every 7. So that costs $1.5 million every time you do it. So they got no money for that. They wouldn't even be able to pay interest on about $50 million of loans they have from a bank here in New Zealand and to the council. So it's not a very pretty picture. They said they probably can't even pay the interest. Did I say that? Can't pay the loans back, let alone even the interest repayments which are required. So yes, it's not a pretty picture at the minute. They're saying it's going to be made worse this year because of the Rugby World Cup. Eden Park's going to have one less All Blacks game to host. They usually do 2 a year, and that's going to lose them just over $1 million in much needed revenue. So it's more money they don't have. A few more detailed things they said was there's going to be less people leasing corporate boxes, which is where a lot of the money comes in. 8 out of 18 are likely to not be leased, so that's almost half. And memberships are down for the Blues. Just lots of stuff going pretty poorly for Eden Park, which is a pity because it's a pretty historic venue, at least in rugby terms. It's the stadium I grew up going to. A lot of success there. Rugby World Cup twice now. Domestic success. It's had Super Rugby finals. It's had provincial finals. So they're going to lose. They're losing money, and they're going to lose more, is what the report says. They can't afford to maintain the stadium as it is. They can't pay back their debts or the interest on the debts. But it also begs the question as to the question around Auckland of a waterfront stadium. So if you're not familiar with Auckland, Eden Park is basically in the middle of a residential area. All around Eden Park are just people's houses. Literally next to the stadium are houses on, I think, pretty much all sides. So I think I've mentioned it once before. Residents there, some of them don't like having Eden Park there because it's loud, but I guess Eden Park was there longer than most of the residents. Supposedly most of the residents are fine with it, but there's a few very vocal ones who kind of kick up a stink anytime Eden Park wants to do anything at night, to like host concerts or something. They're not allowed to host concerts because of the fact that it's in a residential area. They're only allowed to host a certain amount of events every year, so it really limits the amount of money they can make. I mean, a perfect example, I know it's in a much bigger city, but if you look at the Staples Center over in the US, I mean, they host 2 basketball teams, an ice hockey team, and countless concerts. So that stadium is just always on the go. Eden Park, I had a look at their website, has 16 events listed for the entire year. 16. And 4 of those are on the outer oval. So Eden Park is essentially the main ground, and next door is the number 2 ground, which has a very limited seating capacity. And that's where they play most of the domestic cricket games, because they don't bother opening up the big stadium because they don't get much in the way of attendance. So 4 of those 16 are very low numbers events. The rest of them, Super Rugby, All Blacks, a couple of soccer games, I think. So 16 events is not a lot to keep a stadium going. Eden Park has done a few things to try and kind of market itself. They keep trying to push themselves by saying we are New Zealand's national stadium. They've just started using that as kind of a marketing slogan. It's never been an official thing. It's not like Twickenham or the Millennium Stadium or something like that, Stade de France, where it is the stadium. It's just they want to be New Zealand stadium, but they're still losing a ton of money. I noticed in Kmart in Auckland over Christmas, they're selling these Lego, but not real Lego. Quality Blocks was the name. I put it on my Twitter, a picture of it when I was through Kmart. 79 New Zealand dollars to buy a fake Lego set of Eden Park. There was a ton of them left. They've sold bugger all from what I could see. They play little golf games at Eden Park. They did for a little while, like you can go and hit a ball around from stand to stand or something. They do tours, but all that stuff is real drop in the ocean. They need big events there, but they don't get them. Like I said, 16 events in the whole year. I wanted to compare a stadium, so I just picked Suncorp over in Brisbane. I looked at their schedule, 36 events. They got a rugby team, a soccer team, a league team. All play their regular games there. I'm sure they do concerts and stuff as well. So it's a big difference. Auckland, again, if you're not familiar with it, we've got 3 kind of main stadiums. We've got Eden Park where the Blues play and the All Blacks. Very good record at international level there. It'd be a shame to lose that, but on the North Shore, we've got QBE Stadium, which gets like 1 Blues game a year. And I really don't know what else they get, a bit of soccer. I don't know how there's a 25,000 seat stadium over there. And then Mount Smart Stadium, which is the rugby league ground. Auckland's only got a population of like a 1.5 million, and yet we have 3, like Mount Smart's like 30,000 seater, Eden Park's 50, and QBE is like 25,000 seat stadium. So we've got 3 stadiums. We probably only need 1. Which brings me to that waterfront stadium, because they probably should have built one back in 2011 when we were getting ready to host the World Cup. So it would have been like 2006 or 7 or something when we probably would have been able to start work on it. But the council ummed and ahed about it and didn't end up building one. They ended up refurbishing Eden Park, which cost 190 million New Zealand dollars, which is probably closer to 250 or 300 million dollars with inflation. So yeah, they pumped money into it, and now it needs help because it's losing more money. So I mean, the main point of this video is I want to get your guys' thoughts. I know it's probably going to be a bit hard if you're not that familiar with the New Zealand stuff, but basically, a long story short is Eden Park's bleeding money, and it's always going to be bleeding money because they can't host enough events to make it a viable stadium. But it's going to cost a ton of money to build a new stadium. I think it's going to cost, one group estimated they could do it for $1.8 billion, and without any need for like taxpayer funding, because they would essentially get given the grounds that Eden Park are on, which is a very valuable area, knock the stadium down, sell apartments or whatever there. But I don't think it's very realistic. It was going to be, then they're going to build a stadium at the waterfront in Auckland CBD, which would be a prime location, easy to get to, lots of transport, and it's going to be like partially sunken into the water. It all seems a bit far-fetched in terms of the price. I would imagine it's probably going to be a couple of billion at least. But like I said, they've already spent 190 million for the 2011 World Cup, so they would have had a tenth of that value right there if they'd just done it back then. But they didn't do it, so we're stuck with Eden Park. It's losing money, doesn't get enough events. Does the council keep bailing them out, or do they just look at kind of cutting their losses? The league team here in Auckland has signed a deal to stay at their current stadium for like the next 10 years. But there's a clause in that which says if Auckland builds a new stadium, they're open to moving there. So I would say if Auckland put those 2 sports teams there and had a venue which regularly hosted concerts, it could probably be viable. But you need regular events. Auckland, being New Zealand's largest city, is the most likely to get concerts. If you build a stadium smartly nowadays, you can do kind of reduced capacity or expandable capacity. So, I mean, one of Eden Park's big problems is whenever they host an event there on the main ground, they need a lot of staff there to ensure health and safety regulations are all met in terms of the number of like wardens or whatever. So yeah, it's an expensive place to run. They run it at a loss, and yeah, it's not doing that well. So it would be a pity to lose a ground which has hosted 2 World Cup finals, but it does kind of happen to a lot of stadiums in the end. I mean, even Suncorp, which I used an example, took over from Ballymore. So what do you guys think? I know if you're watching from outside New Zealand, a lot of places, like I think there's been talk of moving away from Newlands in South Africa. Other stadiums, I'm sure, face similar issues. But what do you guys think? From the information that I've given, I know I'm probably leaning towards the whole new stadium side personally, because I can't see an option where Eden Park becomes a money maker. Do they just keep bailing it out? I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm just curious to hear your thoughts. Like I said, it's the stadium I kind of grew up going to, so it is a little bit of a hot button issue for me. But yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you again soon. See you later.